Hi, and welcome back to Freedom Thoughts. It's been a while since I've posted a video, and so I'll kind of detail again what my hopes for this channel are, and then we'll kick into the topic for our video. So I'm Michael Hauser. My goal for Freedom Thoughts is to have a platform for free thinking. In a world today where we have a lot of media censorship and increasingly partisan-driven media, I think having places where we can go to express our thoughts and opinions without concern is a really great thing. And so that's my goal for this channel. And my videos tend to be on public policy or political related topics just because that's my interest. And these will definitely be from a conservative viewpoint. So just getting that out there right away. So the topic of today's video is going to be examining Joe Biden's foreign policy and what a Biden-Harris presidency means for U.S. foreign policy. And you note that I'm talking about a Joe Biden presidency like it's going to happen, because I think honestly it's detrimental for conservatives to continue to push that Trump is going to win the presidency, or he could win the presidency, or whatever your statement is, because barring some massive conspiracy, Trump is not going to win the presidency. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be the next president and vice president of the United States. So we need to do ourselves all a favor and examine what that's going to look like. And the topic of today's video is going to be looking at it from a foreign policy perspective. What is their presidency going to mean for U.S. foreign policy, as I mentioned? First, I'm going to kind of give some background and go back into what some of my concerns are by looking at the Obama presidency. Now, throughout his presidency, I think it's pretty safe to say he did not put a U.S. first or strong foreign policy out there. His trademark issues for me are going to be, his issues with Russia and the Crimea, Syria. He had a lot of issues there. And in the Iran nuclear deal, I think that's honestly a failure. There's a lot of failures there. And I think overall it can be summed up that he's had weak foreign policy. There was one moment in Syria where Obama stated that a certain action would be a red line that cannot be crossed without, and the U.S. would retaliate in that circumstance. This red line was crossed and retaliation was never put forward by the U.S. That characterizes Obama's foreign policy. That's my concerns, is that we're going to go back to that. Obviously, Obama was extremely polished and probably a somewhat good negotiator in terms of he was presidential, unlike our past president, Trump. But understanding that concern, that Biden was part of that presidency, that's my concern moving forward. And I'm going to examine not the Iran nuclear deal or any of these other major relationship issues. I'm going to touch on a big issue that might in some ways be pushed on the back burner sometimes, and that is the U.S.-Taiwan-China relationship. This is one of the most complex diplomatic relationships in the entire world. And I'm going to get to some of the complications of this, but before I truly do this, I think we need to dig into some of the history of why this relationship is so complicated. And I'll try not to bore with too many details on this. But let's think about it this way. So there's a civil war in China. The government split. The existing government fled to Taiwan, and then mainland China established the People's Republic of China. However, the United States still had diplomatic recognition for the government that fled to the island of Formosa, or as it is known now, Taiwan. However, in the late 70s, this changed, and the U.S. shifted their diplomatic recognition to the mainland China People's Republic of China. This caused a whole bunch of complications. The Taiwan Relations Act was established to try and basically say, we're moving our diplomatic ties, but we're still going to sort of protect you, Taiwan. That was kind of the message of that. The joint communiques were a couple of other things that China and the United States signed, kind of promising that we wouldn't interfere too much in Taiwan. There's a whole bunch of competing agreements and treaties, for lack of a better term, in this, causing complication. But ever since the passage of the Taiwan Relations Act in 1979, the U.S. has sold arms and traded with Taiwan. And also simultaneously with China. But the complexity enters in because China claims that Taiwan is actually part of China, and Taiwan claims that they're a separate country. And if we maneuver into the diplomatic space across the world, very few countries actually have official diplomatic ties to Taiwan. They all recognize the government on mainland China. So this makes it very complicated for Taiwan in the global space. So that's kind of setting the stage for the complexity. And China, over the years, as you might expect, has been extremely aggressive toward Taiwan, hinting at coercion to try and join Taiwan to mainland China. There's been a whole bunch of drama, for lack of a better term. Now, moving through history, the Taiwan-China-U.S. issue has not really been a partisan issue. I think it's becoming increasingly so, just like about everything else. So moving back to the Bill Clinton presidency, that's as far back as I'll go because I don't want to get into too much detail with this. But in the late 90s, 1996, there was a lot of issues between Taiwan and China. There were some missile tests conducted by China, some election issues that they did not like with Taiwan, a whole bunch of issues. Now, Bill Clinton responded by sending a large aircraft carrier battle group to the region, basically saying, okay, we're going to stand by Taiwan because Taiwan is a democratic nation and China is certainly not. So we are more aligned idealistically with Taiwan. So we wanted to send that message because we're an ally unofficially of Taiwan. And we definitely have some concerns with the China relationship, of course. So that's their response. If we move into the Bush presidency, President Bush ended up selling large numbers of F-16 fighter jets. They continued selling throughout his presidency. Obama, there was a big drought, and that takes us to what is current President Trump and how he's decided to handle that. Now, it's a major tightrope in that area as far as arms sales. Arms sales tend to trigger China more than anything else, obviously, because they claim Taiwan as their own. They're not going to want other countries to sell arms and weapons to Taiwan. Now, there's a couple of different perspectives on this, and arms sales is what I'm specifically highlighting in this. And here's my concern. President Obama had a very weak foreign policy presidency, and my concern is that Joe Biden will follow suit to some degree. Because consider the relationship. If China is saying, okay, we're going to retaliate against U.S. arms manufacturers and your country in general if you make arms sales and starts putting up all this pressure, a weak-minded foreign policy president is going to try and take a step back and try to appease and basically say, oh, okay, well, we're fine. We won't move forward with this. We understand your concerns here. Now, a more aggressive-minded president would say, well, I really don't care. We're going to move forward with these arms sales. No sort of aggression at all will be tolerated against Taiwan. We're not going to stand by for that. And President Trump recently, in October of this year, approved a $2.4 billion arms sale package to Taiwan, one of the biggest in recent memory in the last years. So that's been a big development. So I think that's the concern, is basically there needs to not be any ambiguity in the East Asia region. We've seen China be extremely aggressive, building out islands on coral reefs, trying to extend their reach across the Taiwan Strait, which is the strip dividing between Taiwan and mainland China. The U.S. needs to send a strong message to that region that we are the predominant power. Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, all those countries in that region need to be able to look to the U.S. as the leader, not China. And one of the ways we do that is we look in the face of China and say, we don't care if you're going to retaliate on this. We're going to go to bat for a democratic nation in this region that you're pressuring. That needs to be our message. Because here's the real concern. The U.S. and China do not want to go to war. The world does not want U.S. and China to go to war. Would they go to war over China trying to annex Taiwan? Potentially. There's divided opinions on defense experts on this, but potentially. So there needs to be a clear message sent to China that no aggression will be tolerated against Taiwan. Because the concern is if we kind of back off and say, well, we're going to kind of try and appease, China might think they could annex or move aggressively against Taiwan in militarily, potentially, without retaliation from the U.S. And that would be catastrophic. Because if the U.S. actually wanted to go to bat militarily for Taiwan, both sides could be forced into a war they didn't even really mean to have. So it's critical, even if there's short-term consequences, which might be that China has some sanctions on U.S. arms manufacturers. That is a small price to pay for peace in that region and a strong position with the other allies in the region. I mentioned Japan, Singapore, and those other ones. That is critical. So a strong foreign policy with Taiwan and China might actually stabilize that region. It's a small little island, but that little island has massive implications in peace in that region and in U.S.-China foreign relations moving forward. I hope you greatly enjoyed the video. Shoot me some comments. If you've got any questions or anything like that, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That would be great. And like the video if you enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great week.